Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay, next one. Hitting the one on top of the head that we have to talk about. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take the floor here. So the Biden, House of Biden has turned around and said that they seek to make half of new U.S. auto fleets electric by 2030, which is a lofty goal, by no means. They're not knocking it. Great. Could be very fantastic for everybody involved. However, there's a couple of caveats that we have to discuss right off the bat because this is an incredibly lofty goal. And it really, really, really beckons some conversation here because this is some of the things that they put out there right off the bat. They want 10% more stringent emissions by 2023. So that's within 2 model years that the auto manufacturers have to kind of bring things together here, right? They also here in some other areas, they said that they wanted to have 50% of new cars sold that would be at some point, I think they said they want to be battery or fuel cell or plug-in hybrid are some of the ones that they include in those numbers. All right. Now, the other part of it is this is not a legally binding contract. Okay. It just won support of foreign automakers and U.S. automakers. Okay. And they said that it would require, and here's the caveat, billions of dollars in government funding. And they're not wrong. Because, notably, in that, right now, in that space of how much money is going to be required, there is $174 billion currently bound to this EV project that does not include infrastructure. And then there's probably going to be another $100 billion that's necessary for consumer incentives. All right. And now most of these guys, most of the manufacturers, General Motors, Ford, so on and so forth, they're all pretty much on board with this. They said in a joint statement that they aspired to achieve at least 40 to 50% of annual U.S. volume of electric vehicles by 2030. Okay, which is great. And we've been covering new electric vehicles here on the channel for the last couple of weeks, including the new Ford Lightning, and imagine so that all the vehicles that are coming out so far have been more of the higher branded, higher priced vehicles that they know that they can get a premium for. Okay, but there's a mixed reaction. Right? And this is where we really have to talk about some of the other things that are happening, because some people said that it wasn't enough. Some people said it was too little. But then others said, actually, Elon Musk didn't say anything because he wasn't invited, which is notable. So others also said that there's a problem because according to others, which is BMW and such, they said in a joint statement that it's great, it's a bold action, but they have to build consumer demand. Okay, so let's start the conversation right there. All right, and that's the part where they go into the fact that they called for $174 billion in government spending in EVs, and also another $7.5 billion in the new infrastructure plan for charging stations. Right? Can we do it? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I just want to say first off that as you look, if you go searching for information on this stuff changes quite often. It's quite fluid as politics change, of course. Until anything's actually signed and actually done, they're just talking about numbers and trying to get things through. So as we're looking through this, I know if you're interested in buying EVs, there's been EV buying incentives for new owners in the past. There's talk to make stuff like that even more expansive. Actually, it's something about if you buy a new vehicle, but it's also by a company in the U.S., but also a company that uses unions, you can get up to $12,005 per vehicle back on that. So that's actually a lot higher than like, for example, like I got. I was a new EV purchaser when I bought my Tesla Model 3. Just a standard long range one, and I'm quite happy with it, but I got a tax credit for that. There's been talk of making those not just tax credits, but actually a straight rebate, which depending on who you are might be more attractive, right? Of course, you don't get it back in your taxes, you get it straight back to you, which is something there. So these are all things that are valid, of course, with dollars and cents, but really what Mike's kind of talking about as well is infrastructure wise, is this something we can do? And as far as the amount of companies that say they will be getting near 30, 40, 50% of their new car sales by a few decades from now, we can probably all agree the infrastructure is not there yet, and that's of course what this is half what we're talking about. There's been talks, and I know Mike will probably bring it up too. There's been talks that maybe some things that might work are more creative ways to do it, where we already have electricity provided for already out there in public use, like maybe making charging points available on maybe streetlights, depending on what city you're in, or depending on how it works on wherever your local jurisdictions can make it work too. I guess when we think about infrastructure as far as this volume of EVs that we're hoping or planning to get into the market, we're talking about when do we think is going to be the highest demand on the energy grid?
Sure. Which I'd like to
probably
address that.
say, yeah, which you could probably go along and say, of course, whenever it's cheapest to charge. Some places have different charging rates. You might have that in your area. You might not. For me, my example where I am, that's not a thing. So it doesn't really matter what I charge as far as the price to me, to my energy supplier. And then of course, just what would you say? The availability, like where can you actually get a charge, right? Because you could say, well, okay, I want to buy a new car. I'm going to get some money back. That's all great. But I have nowhere to charge this thing, right? I can park my car maybe on the street where, I don't have a place to park. I just park on the street.
So let me ask you a question. If you were going to ask a guy that had all the experience in the world about trying to build an EV platform and an EV car company, and you want to make this happen, that guy, who would you go to for those types of answers? Because my answer would be Elon Musk, right?
Well, I'm not going to go down your political rabbit hole
not that.
As far as why he wasn't
invited.
invited.
It's just that because he had a comment. It's not a political. It's nothing positive.
Of course, right? Of course. No. He seemingly wasn't invited. I know he said that on Twitter, which is what you're getting at, right? Elon wasn't invited to this signing.
The electric expert in the room, and they didn't consult. It's just kind of interesting to me. No, but
I mean, it kind of goes along with. I think Dave said something about it too. He said. All the union jobs, and that is
I'm not
something
going there.
valid,
I'm
right?
not going there yet.
Currently, you want to do it?
No. Here's where I want to go. I want to talk about something else because.
Okay, all right. I'll turn it over.
So here's the thing. You hit on a couple of good points, right? The time of day that you can charge and how many. So first of all, let's take a look at right now what this number means as far as how many sales there are. Okay, that are EV vehicles worldwide. All right. So right now, according to a consulting firm, and this is a consulting firm, so take it with a grain of salt. They say that EVs right now make up only 2% of the sales market, but that could be about 24% by 2030 in its forecast. Okay, and that market share.
Those are global numbers, right? You said,
which is 330 billion. Yep. So let's estimate that there's a 7% increase across the boards now over the next couple of years for the American buyer to go out and get EV vehicles. And you turn around and buy yours, and you decide, hey, just like 7% of your local community, you all now have EVs. And everybody's been used to charging theirs comfortably at night, except now it's Florida. It's a heat wave. You've been enjoying these lovely, lovely, beautiful low rates on charging. And the best place to charge is in your own home. Mind you, most EVs to this point have been marketed after affluent buyers. The average asking price somewhere north of $70,000. Okay. And what I'm getting at is you don't have the infrastructure yet. You're going to be selling a lot of these cars. You're going to be pushing this whole wave through of the cars on the road before you have the infrastructure to absorb that type of electric usage through a grid that is built on downtime at night. Okay, so these grids that are, everybody goes home at night, they use a little bit less energy, but let's say after 10 o'clock at night, we start to see that wane because most communities and households, people go to bed. Fine, perfectly.
Right.
Great. But now all of a sudden you're going to up the demand and you're not going to give these grids, unless you rebuild the infrastructure, time to relax and breathe again. You're going to be pumping them 24/7 in order to make this happen much faster without putting something on paper about the infrastructure. And it takes half the time to design and build a new car than it does to put the energy and the infrastructure pieces in place to get these communities up to speed. So that's my biggest fear, right? Because the Fuse article that you pointed to here, which is actually fantastic, and we have a link to it right here. And if you want to go ahead and the one from the Fuse, if you want to talk about it, because they raise those very same questions about saying these are lofty goals. But the other thing is it's not binding. Okay, you have to build demand, and you have to build the infrastructure to this be successful. These are 4 challenges that they already have. So go ahead. There's a lot to be said there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna say, just tapping on what you said about the demand. It is gonna maybe take some creative. Well, first off, I'll say as an EV owner, it does take a bit of a learning experience for your own
Hmm.
self to realize how you use an EV car, in the sense that what I'm getting at is, your gas car, you drive it until you need gas, which you're below quarter tank, and some people drive it more than that, of course, till the lights on, and then they go get fuel. That's not what I would recommend for an EV owner. You would want to keep it not totally topped up, because we might get into battery chemistry and keeping the longevity of the health of
Hmm.
the battery. But the point being is, you kind of want to top up your battery whenever you have a chance. And so it's more about charging often and lower amounts, rather than charging all the way all the
Sure.
time. That helps you also for just the time you're going to spend at the pump currently, or time you'll spend at the charging station. Because you go to the gas pump and you charge, you put gas in your car for a
Hmm.
few minutes, maybe two, and then it's totally full, and you can go 400 miles or whatever. Um, in EVs, you can get a fast charge on many of these newer EVs, and 30 minutes you can have nearly full battery, depending on how much you
Right.
have. So I guess where I'm going with that is, they're going to have to think about where they want to place these charging stations for
Hmm.
public use, in such a way that they can give the people more spread out opportunity time wise over the day, so that there's not, like you said, a single demand, like bam, always at one
Sure.
time a day, which would pose the most stress on the system.
Sure.
And I can, and thinking, geez, I mean, you talk about people in the north when it gets really cold and they got heaters on at night, if they're using electric heaters rather than some other type of
Hmm.
propane or whatnot. I mean, geez, yeah, at night you heat your house and go to bed with your gas car. What if you're charging your car and your neighbor's charging his car and his neighbor's charging his car, and you all got the electric heater running too, all at night in the winter?
That's
I
a
mean,
lot.
yeah, I'm totally along with you, so I
So,
get
but
that.
here's the
So
other
it's
thing,
gonna
though.
take some creative thoughts on how
Right.
they
So
do it.
only 9.7% of households in U.S. cities have access to a public EV charging station with 1/4 of a mile from home. Now, here's the problem that I also have with this, right? You have to turn a lot more people into homeowners to solve part of this problem, because right now, early adopters have all been, for the most part, unless it's an electric hybrid, which plugins have come in recently, right? So the other issue being,
Oh, you mean
yeah,
yeah, just the
right,
battery
because
electric
if you have a
hybrids, yeah.
plug-in electric vehicle, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say you have a garage. And if you have a garage, that's where you charge it at night. And if you're gonna open up even a percentage, let's just say a third of those sales, because they said they could be battery electric, a third of those sales will have to be households. Now, if you haven't built the infrastructure between the outskirts of town and it's over 75 miles from town, and you only have a range of 250 nautical miles, and someone has to actually go into town, and there's no route for them to
Mhm.
get there, problem. You've just lost a sale, because they're obviously going to buy something
Yeah.
that's gasoline powered, right?
Yep.
So it's almost like,
I think you've hit that exactly on the head. Exactly that point. Not so much just what you said, like where to put them, but also the fact that you won't get the
no.
sales is what you said before. I know. I'm just kind of
Yeah, yeah,
backing what
yeah.
you said. As far as, if the infrastructure's not there, the people that maybe want an EV are just not going
And
to do it
that's the thing. So you're
because they
gonna
can't.
throw out, and here's my problem. Here's my big issue. It's not the fact that we can't take initiatives, and it's not the problem that we can't find ways to change the environment. It's got nothing to do with that. It means we're going to be putting a burden on the infrastructure first, rather than build the infrastructure and then expect the vehicles to come. So it's lofty goals, but we need to build the infrastructure first, so you know that you can comfortably have that type of situation where things work out. Problem that we just had in Texas over this past winter was an extreme cold spell, and they couldn't keep the lights on. And it's happened in California before. Okay. So, and the difference is, what are the rates going to increase in electricity demand? Excuse me. What's the rate of demand that's going to increase? And what's the rate that your bill is going to go up when that rate of demand goes up? Because suddenly your electric bill might not be the same as what it once was, when everybody else is clamoring for the same amount of electricity at the same time. Might not work out.
And I may also point out, just a thought as I'm thinking here, when you talked about, needing extra heating, and I just said extra heating too. I'm thinking also extra cooling. There's people I know that live in the Northwest that have never had air
Hmm.
conditioning ever year round. They just never had air conditioning, and they're talking to me and saying, we may put an AC system in a house because it's so freaking hot now. And if you guys have been keeping up with some of the weather news over the past few months, you'll know we had those heat domes, they call them. If you can look that up too, but the really extreme heat that kind of just hangs around a particular
Right.
area to do with jet stream movement. But anyway, I mean, so hot in some places that some of the over electric cables that run those trolleys in some of the downtowns literally
That's
melted the
crazy.
copper in some of those places because they weren't designed for that
No.
kind of heat. And so where I'm going with that is we're going to have an even higher demand on just cooling in some places. I mean, the EVs, it's going along with all this infrastructure as far as supporting EVs, which is why we're talking
Of
about it, of
course.
course. But I want while I'm talking, I'll pass it to you. But I did want to say, anybody in chat or watching the video later, let us know in the comments below if you guys have an EV. What kind of, like, is it plug-in or is it hybrid or whatever? Because I'm interested to know. And then also, how do you guys charge it? Like, at your work or only at your house? Or I know one of my neighbors, he's got a garage, but they don't charge
Right.
every day, and she only goes to a local charging station nearby, and she charges there every 3 or 4 days. So I know there's even some people that could charge at their house just still don't. So yeah, let us know in the comments how you guys use your EV if you've got one, and then what you think about having maybe all of your neighbors nearby. If 50%, 60% of them were going to buy EVs, how's it going to work?
I
Like,
don't know.
in your
So
area,
here's
what
the
does
other
it
thing. If you're
look
a
like? So
renter, right? If you're a renter, it's the same thing as I never had a gas pump in my house, right? And I know a lot of people would make that comment saying, "Well, you never had a gas pump in your house." Well, the difference is it literally takes me 5 minutes, and I can plan that in with almost no impact to my daily operation of my vehicle to go get gas, right? It's literally I have to drive
mhm.
past the place anyhow. I bump it in there, and it goes. Now the difference is when you turn around and you say, "Well, now you got a half an hour every week that you've got to plan in for charging your EV to keep it at the point where you're only doing local traveling." Okay, understood. Just like you said, if
Mhm.
I am now a renter of an apartment, that might be applicable to me if I live in a place like downtown Orlando and there's multiple charging stations in a locale that I can reach. However, push me 50 miles away from one of those charging stations, and again, I'm no longer a buyer of that EV vehicle. I'm now looking at an electric hybrid. Okay, push me further than that. And if the infrastructure isn't there, I'm not a buyer of that product anymore. So they're talking about right now with
Yeah.
EVs only comprising, like we said earlier, almost 2 to 3% of the marketplace, that strong incentives are going to be necessary for widespread EV adaptation. Okay, this is my
Mhm.
last caveat. Then there's there really a market for EVs right now? Because it has to be, if you have to prop up the market with so much money in order for people to find it applicable to go through the inconvenience of becoming either A, early adopters, or B, waiting on the infrastructure to catch up. Do you really have an EV market? Because to me right now, it sounds like you're going to be pouring in money from the manufacturing end, you're going to be pouring money in from the government end, and you're going to hope that the demand in the middle meets and someone goes, I really need an EV today.
I'm hearing what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm thinking to myself, if we don't try to move any direction, I'm saying this as a general
Sure, sure,
idea,
sure.
right? If we don't try to move in a general direction, or at least give people the idea that this is an option, will people, because people tend to not want to change
Sure.
anyway, as just a general, not a
No,
not a
no, but
rule, right? A human nature rise, but people may just continue to do what they've always done because that's kind of how we usually end up
mhm.
doing. So I'm wondering if you kind of have to make incentives. I'm thinking not always, of course. People, market drives, or rather demand drives, interest and investment a lot of times too. So, and as you're talking a minute ago about also, like, is there really a market? I'm also thinking to myself too, just, the elephant in the room. COVID has changed the way a lot of people
Sure.
work. And I know many people that used to go to the office a lot, as their job, they go to the office, right? And I know a lot of those people now work from
Mhm.
home full
Right.
time, and it's been working for them, which is good, of course. But their companies, some of them, not all of them, of course, but some of them have said, well, we actually are figured out how to make this work from home. So we're actually downsizing our assets in the office itself. And so, maybe they're going to have 50% of the workforce in 50% of the time, or maybe they're 100% telework. So I guess that goes back to well, not only is there an EV demand, but also how much demand for those people is there for a new car if they're not driving much at all.
Your car's
I
gonna
mean,
last longer if that's the case. And the other thing is, look, it's
yeah,
changed people
I
travels
mean,
habit. Travel habits
so
have changed because people that were maybe not willing to get on airplanes anymore are
mhm.
foregoing it, right? And they're saying, oh, well, maybe it's better for a drive, which all of a sudden means that they are going to put a longer
Yeah,
distance
yeah.
demand on their vehicle. Look, and again,
Mhm.
everyone, I want a lot of people out there to understand something because if you've stayed long enough for this part of the conversation, you need to hear this. I play devil's advocate, and the reason why I play devil's advocate is because if you think you're in a big hole now and you're going to throw a lot of money at a solution, but that solution doesn't fix the initial problem or the market doesn't develop, you've literally just thrown the money away because there's other areas that were going to impact global greenhouse gases and things that do need to be looked at as serious alternatives, right? So right now, just saying the word EV and throwing money at it may not be the greatest solution. And if others are already raising a slight red flag about saying, look, you really have to understand that it's a complex situation, but there's so much money. We're talking about $2.2 billion in S packs for EV tolls. You're talking about
Mhm.
400 times that going into this from both ends of the spectrum of people trying to develop this market. Okay. And it's
It's funny you said that about eVTOL. But literally, oh, so
no, go
go
ahead. No,
ahead,
no,
Ben.
no.
Finish,
That's a
finish.
lot of money. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, no, you literally just said eVTOLs, and I was thinking to myself, that was the next thing I was going to mention was as we talk about all the infrastructure that needs to go into these cars, I just take a sidestep and say, remember all the volume of the number of cars and all the raw materials that would go into making all those new
Hmm.
cars, and then let's think, oh, we're also trying to build a brand new sector of industry for air taxis, though that also going to
Oh,
be
sure.
electric or
And
hybrid, right? But also electric. And so the demand on raw resources for at least batteries in this case, not steel and aluminum and all the other things that might make it, but talking the battery
mhm.
elements is the same. And we have another article down there about batteries, but we'll maybe get to that. But I mean, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there too, as we talk about all the stuff about charging EVs, ground-based EVs. Let's not forget another huge part of our channel is talking about air taxis, and
Sure.
battery tech is in there right away as well, which uh,
Look,
maybe mid to long term could have impact on the range of EVs, which we hope as battery density
sure.
increases and
Sure, sure,
general
sure. I
battery
agree. Yeah.
technology. But all the things we talked about and Mike's brought up too, and myself with the concerns we have are also valid. So
Right.
yeah.
So look, and look, there's a great comment from David in chat, which is fantastic, which he says we're on the EV adaptation curve. Subsidies are going to prop up
Hmm.
internal combustion engine manufacturers to stop going bankrupt. It's quite so quick,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
have to look. It almost seems like within a 9 month period, we've transitioned to every major manufacturer jumping on board from when California said that they were going to change the fact of they wanted so many EVs in their system by a certain period of time, which is great. Okay. Again, don't misunderstand the message. We're not saying this is bad. We're not saying this is terrible. We're
No,
saying
yeah, yeah,
be prepared because you're creating a terrible chain of events downstream if you don't address the infrastructure first. If you want the EVs, great, but make sure you're doing it in the most sound way so you don't blow the money that you're willing to spend your wad on getting the market to develop. That's it. Be buyer beware because
yeah.
for me, precious metals are going to be important. Recycling is going to be important. Corey has been numerously on a weekly basis bombarding me with battery technologies that we can't always get all that stuff on the show
Hmm.
about what the recyclability. Like you said, there's an article that he put down below that kind of goes in along with the conversation. There's so much, and people are inundating you with information right now, right? It's everywhere. Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So buyer beware because look, and here's another one because a company like GM is going to tease you with certain things,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yep.
And they're
Hmm.
teasing with the next Silverado that we said is going to probably take after the Hummer dynamics. It's going to use the Hummer onboard platform right there, and they're saying it's going to have four-wheel steering. So they're wanting to bring all this huge amount of innovation to the marketplace, but there's caveats. Can we do it? It's big questions, huge.
Yep.
So I want to. I
Yeah. I don't know if I have any more to add for this particular one today. I mean,
No, neither do I.
yeah, it's yeah, we as Mike said too, we don't misunderstand all of our comments on this particular article because we do very much want to see innovation and improvement with transportation, whether it's on the ground or in the air, because we are quite interested in both sectors. So it's just that we hope we hope we wouldn't see everybody run out and buy AVs and then there is an extreme line wherever you charge because you can't charge, and then everybody's got buyer's remorse, or they don't, or they see the writing on the wall ahead of time, at least in their area, and don't buy an EV anyway. So
Or
it just
or
doesn't
they
work. So
lease one for 2 years and then dump it after 2 years, and they're looking for another internal combustion engine vehicle, which doesn't exist because no one's been looking forward to producing a more efficient, internal combustion engine for the last 5 years. And then we go, oh, we made a big mistake. And maybe it's, look, I think in the future, what you really have to have is you probably have to have a space where 50% of the vehicles, literally 50% of the entire fleet of America or the world, are still internal combustion and 50% are EV. And I think that's a balance that we might come out to as a planet. I don't know. I'm spitballing on this one, but I think that that might be a place where we go, hey, the carbon footprint offsets this by so much, and we save so much here and we lose so much there, that becomes a reality. You don't know. Right? It's something that you're going to find in the minutia of the development of all these things. So there you go.
yeah, my lastly for me too, I was just going to touch on the same thing you said there about going 100% electric with all vehicles in all industries. I just don't think it's going to work either.
No.
I also would like to see more EVs, and to be done in a smart way. But I'm just thinking, and they might be fringe cases, but it's nevertheless valid. If I was to think, okay, give me an example of something you don't ever think would be electric. If you know about how they do mining for raw materials in certain places, they have those giant pits, and they have the large excavators and the huge trucks that drive all the raw material off somewhere. I just don't see those giant trucks being fully electric, and a lot of the heavy equipment in some of those places and other industries. I just don't see.
They would.
Maybe I could totally be wrong because Tesla's making the actually now.
Well, hold on. No, but wait. You're right, because look, they want to make all airplanes EVs by 2050, and here's the problem. The biggest problem with long-range aviation is weight. You can't take all that fuel with you and all those batteries unless batteries become microscopic or you become land-based in powering them. It's a huge burden to carry all that extra weight, all that distance. So there's going to be other places where it might not work. That's all. And the same thing goes for long-distance trucking. You might find out, even if you put things on, supposed rails, that carrying around those batteries at a certain point, maybe after 500 miles, it doesn't bear fruit to do long distance hauling with that much weight because you kill your cargo load. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say about the trucks real quick was I don't have the article down below for you guys, but I just saw an article that Tesla was working out new charging technologies for their semis that they're working on. So I already know the semis are supposed to go 600 miles, maybe a bit further than that. And it was always like, oh, how do you, okay, they go that far, then what? Like,
right.
How do you get them to go more range? And they, I can try to find it, but it's basically the wireless charging that you already know you can use wireless charging in your phone and other places. They're working on wireless charging that
built into the road,
crazy fast, literally like supercharger speed, but for the semi. So they can charge the semi battery full up in like 30 minutes.
That would be pretty cool, which is enough time to get a burger.
Which is all wireless. So you just drive over, park,
walk away.
I mean, yeah. So, but I mean, again, that's neither here nor there. Maybe for another conversation. But there you go. Anyway,
look, I got to get out of here. So thanks everybody for participating. We appreciate all the comments. David, keep them coming. Keep us honest. Keep the comments rolling in the videos that we produce. Everybody like, subscribe, follow if you can. We appreciate it so much. We know, and look, we know we're not perfect on everything. We know we're not looking for the 100% answer of every question that's out there in the marketplace. What we are is we're the open discussion, and we're the place where you come for open discussion. And if you have an opinion, let us know. And we're willing to listen to everything, because it's not going to take one person to solve this. It's not going to take one opinion. It's not going to take one perspective. It's going to take multiple, and it's going to take some hardcore falling on your face, because every time you fail, you get a little closer to success, but there's going to be a couple of failures along the way. That's the way it is. All right. You got anything else to add?
That's all for
right.
now. Thanks,
everybody have a great night. And if you are into racing games, remember, Art of Rally has released on the Xbox for Game Pass users. So get excited, because I am. All right, cool. We're out of here. Sweet. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great afternoon. Peace out.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye. Oh, you're lagging behind on the video. It sounds like, looks like Skype has gotten slow. Skype. I should be able to hit a button so I can cue music in your headset so you can hear it.
That'd be cool.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for showing up. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.